Major League trade market is officially closed, but the Mariners could still bring in some more help over the final 2 months of the season. We'll highlight a few players in the organization who aren't on the 40-man roster right now, but could be very soon, as well as a couple of interesting outside options coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, August 2nd, 2024. This is Teddy Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, we're going to go over a few players within the Mariners organization who could help the team's playoff push over the final 2 months of the season. We also might talk about a couple of outside options that we think are interesting. We'll also get you set for this weekend series against the Phillies. But before we do that, shout out to our title sponsor today, FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. The link is in the description, and you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. So the Mariners are trying to win their first division title in 23 years, folks. And as we've talked about for months now, this team needs help, and they still need help even after the trade deadline. We've talked a lot over the last few days about how we felt they still needed to add one more bat on top of what they did. They unfortunately did not do that. So let's go over some options here, not just from the offensive side of things. We're also going to talk about some pitching, and we're actually going to start with pitching here, going over some guys that are within the Mariners organization right now that are not on the 40-man roster, but could be very soon, and we think could potentially help this team get over the hump here. So let's start with Troy Taylor, who we talked about yesterday. Troy Taylor, reliever, down in AA Arkansas, 12th round pick of the Mariners back in 2022, was a 20th round pick of the Mariners back in 2021. They didn't sign him, and they said, you know what, you're going to be a Mariner one way or the other. So we're going to draft you all over again the very next year. And Taylor is having a really, really nice year down in AA, especially over the last month or so. So Colby, what makes you think Taylor can help the Mariners right now?
Yeah, it's major league quality stuff, and he's throwing the ball very well down in Arkansas, particularly over the last month to 6 weeks, I'd say. So it's, fastball that is in the mid to upper 90s that he pairs really well with a slider that, right now is probably about average, but it flashes plus. So there's a possibility here of, a couple 60 grade pitches. It's 93 to 97 with some tail on it. The slider is, just a hard breaker in the opposite direction. So pretty good athlete, all things considered. Again, it's just a matter of, does he throw enough strikes? And so far the answer this year has been yes. He's thrown plenty of strikes, so that's not really an issue. So obviously this isn't a guy that you want to call up and trust in high leverage spots right away, but in those middle innings right now where you've kind of seen Saucedo struggle, where you've seen Thornton struggle recently, this could be a guy that you're right. Both's been okay his last few times out, but yeah, this is kind of, you throw him into that mix, and this is where he belongs in a bullpen. So yeah, the Mariners have not had an issue jumping guys straight from AA to the big leagues, particularly pitching wise. So I don't think he needs to, prove anything in Tacoma or anything like that. I think he's pretty darn ready, pretty much ready to go right now. And I think he fits right into that kind of that middle relief type of role where, where you're using Saucedo, where you're using Thornton, where you're using both, you might go to him instead because it's pretty good stuff. Like I said, the fastball is above average right now. It sits above average. It flashes plus. The slider about average, but it also flashes plus. He's got a changeup in his back pocket that not really seen a ton of, but he does have it. So maybe that's something that he could throw here, but it's just really going to come down to, what's the command like, and is he going to sit 96, 97, 98, or is he going to, top out at 96, 97, 98? Because that obviously will, the fastball value increases if you throw harder. Usually when Taylor is at the upper end of his, of his velo, he still gets the good tail on the fastball. So the velo doesn't seem to affect movement or anything like that for Taylor. So yeah, just kind of a good solid middle relief type of option. And he could be one of the ads in September or sooner, because he is probably the reliever in your system, pure reliever, who is most major league ready and is actually performing at the
Mhm.
moment. So I wouldn't be shocked at all we saw him.
He's been excellent since June 13th. He's made 14 appearances over that time, 16 and 2/3 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts to just 4 walks, just 1 earned run over that time. So that is certainly an option right there. And the stuff right now looks more than capable of getting major leaguers out. So would be an interesting shot for the Mariners to take, especially with some of their middle guys kind of going through it right now. Let's switch things up here. Let's talk about a potential bat that could help. We're talking about a guy that just recently entered the organization as part of the Ryan Stanek trade with the New York Mets. Ryland Thomas, 24-year-old left-handed hitting, left-handed throwing outfielder, just 5'10", $170 according to Fangraphs. He is not going to hit for really any power. He did hit 5 home runs in AAA this year before being traded to Seattle. He's only played in 3 games in Tacoma. He has historically been a minor league performer. He has performed at every level of the minors except for AAA. And the key with him here is the guy doesn't strike out, puts the ball in play a lot. He also walks a fair amount, or has walked a fair amount. So listen to these K rates just from all of his stops over the last 16-ish months, we'll say. 9.4%, 6.8%, 8.5%, 11.9%, 12.2%. And then the walks, 10.1%, 12.8%, 11.9%, 7.3%, 6.6%. Right? Those last couple of numbers, not so great. But he's posted several walk rates north of 10%, which will absolutely play, especially when he's also striking out, 12% or lower. Right. So, yeah, could this team use a little bit more contact? Absolutely. Is Ryland Thomas exciting? No. But again, he helps in an area that the Mariners, of course, obviously really struggle in. Right. That's one of the reasons that they went out and they got Justin Turner, who doesn't strike out a ton and puts the ball in play a lot. And we've already seen a little bit of how much that can help with this offense, and having a guy that's essentially a strikeout stopper, right, in your lineup. So what do you think about maybe kicking the tires on Ryland Thomas at some point?
I mean, maybe down the road. I don't think he's an upgrade to what you have right now. There's just no pop there. But, like you said, he is going to put the ball in play. It's also worth noting that he is a good defender. He can play center field, a legitimate center field, which means he can play the other 2 spots really well. And he's a good runner. He's a good athlete, not a base stealer, but a good runner. Bring some speed off the bench, that type of thing. Some late inning defensive versatility if you need it. So, based on, the guys who aren't on the 40-man, yeah, he's one of the more interesting bats. He's almost certainly behind guys like Samad Taylor, who does a lot of the same things. He's behind Ryan Bliss. He's behind Locklear, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, Ryland Thomas is a guy who, you could see come up and serve a very specific role off the bench in September. And, the Mariners, maybe they think there's something there they can unlock, like power wise, or maybe there's something they think that they can unlock base stealing wise. But, pure defensive replacement outfielder, guy who just, slaps the ball around. Not super exciting, but it is a role that can be important off the bench, particularly as you kind of try and chase down a playoff spot with the expanded rosters.
All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of notable prospects in the Mariners system that have a shot to make their major league debut here in the coming months in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you once again by FanDuel as well as SupplyHouse.
I know I'm saying the obvious here, but I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, unfortunately, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's LOCKDON, and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. This weekend, you can catch all the action between the Mariners and the Phillies on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. All right, so we're talking about guys who are not on the Mariners 40-man roster right now who could be very soon and potentially help the Mariners as they make their push for their first division title in 23 years. We just talked about Troy Taylor and Ryland Thomas. Now let's get into some of the names that I think are going to excite fans the most. Let's start with Cole Young. We talked about him a little bit yesterday and the possibility of calling him up. The Mariners, one of the Mariners' top two, depending on how you feel, prospects in their system right now. He is slashing .251, .347, .381 down in AA Arkansas at 20 years old. It's a 107 WRC plus, just a 15.7% strikeout rate, 12.1% walk rate. So pretty much everything that we said about Ryland Thomas applies here with Cole Young. But obviously the ceiling with Cole Young is much, much, much higher. All right. So again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but for those that didn't watch that episode, or if you want to just expand on your thoughts at all, what do you think about the possibility of calling up Cole Young at some point this year?
I just don't see it. Again, he's 20 years old. He's the youngest, he started this year. I don't know if he still is, but the youngest player in the Texas League, the youngest hitter in the Texas League, and he's performing pretty well down there, but he's not tearing the cover off the ball. It's not like it's so obvious that he's too good for that level that you have to make a move there. So I'm pretty neutral on the idea. In theory, I don't love promoting a guy straight from AA who isn't like absolutely torching AA. So to me, if you're considering Cole Young at all this year, you need to get him up to AAA, see how he handles that environment. Young right now, probably the best shortstop that's available to you right now. Now, is he more likely to hit than Dylan Moore? I mean, depends on what you mean. Is he more likely to make contact? Sure, probably. And while Dylan Moore is, very streaky, he's a proven major leaguer who's had some really nice moments this year and is definitely capable of getting hot at the right time and kind of, being a real weapon for the next month until JP gets back. But, second base is kind of where most people see him playing long-term, and Jorge Polanco's playing okay right now. Now Polanco goes on the IL. Young's probably still behind Bliss. So I just kind of look at this and I go, could Young be up this year in theory? Sure, it's possible. I wouldn't do it without, giving him at least a couple weeks in Tacoma, see how he handles that situation. But I think that we're probably a little bit too early on Young. It's possible he's, on the Mariners roster as soon as opening day next year. That's certainly, in the realm of possibility. But to me, I look at it and I say, we're probably just a smidge too early. We probably need a couple, 150 more plate appearances or so down in the minor leagues before we feel like maybe he's worth a shot. But if they are going to try it, or if they're thinking they might try it, wait and see if he gets promoted to AAA. Because then I think at that point it's become pretty clear that they're at least considering the possibility that, hey, we could add Cole Young in September and we'll have a nice player off the bench and maybe a guy who can do some things for us. I think that's not a guy I'm promoting straight from AA, but if they do promote him to AAA, then I think that means they're seriously considering it.
So lastly on our list here is Logan Evans. course, Evans got moved to the bullpen for a little while there. It seemed like they were ramping him up to make his major league debut as a reliever, but that didn't really work out according to plan. So he's back starting again, and he's having a really good year down in Double-A. 2.34 ERA, 3.97 FIP, 4.18 xFIP, 7.79 Ks per nine, 3.12 walks per nine, 69 in a third innings pitched so far. Over 24 appearances, 14 of those being starts, of course. It would seem like if they're going to call up Logan Evans, it would be to start, right? And look, considering, all the hiccups or, bumps in the road, whatever you want to call them, with Brian Wu and his health this year, and the fact that Emerson Hancock only has one more in-season option for the remainder of 2024, feels like Evans might be close to making a spot start. If they have to do that, I mean, they can also just Jonathan Diaz if they want to, but they do really like Logan Evans. We know that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Evans, obviously he's having a great year. He's probably going to be the minor league pitcher of the year for Seattle. I think they call that the Jamie Moyer Award. I can't remember what they call all the awards for the minor leaguers, but it's almost certainly going to be as a starter because, in the way the Mariners schedule looks like, they're going to be able to skip Wu if they want to. They could skip him, or they could, he's going to get extra rest. There's a lot of off days kind of baked into the rest of the Mariners schedule. So, in theory, they should be okay there, but it only takes one guy getting hurt. And like you said, if they call up Hancock, then he's on the roster for the rest of the year. And while that may not be a bad thing, it's, what do you do? Is Hancock good enough out of the bullpen that it's worth it? Or would you just call up Logan Evans, add him to the 40-man, have him make a couple starts, and then send him back down? Because you're adding Logan Evans to the 40-man at some point in the next year anyways. Maybe not this winter because you don't have to. But at some point, Logan Evans is going to be on the 40-man roster for Seattle if he's here over the next year. So why not do it now? You have a spot available for him. So Evans to me really only makes sense as a starter. If you're going to call up a reliever, like a pure reliever, you're going to call up Taylor over Evans right now, because Taylor's got reliever stuff and he's got plenty of experience doing it. So, if Wu has to go on the IL again, or something worse happens, it might be Evans they pick over Hancock, and Hancock's been solid, when he's been up with Seattle, and he's been pretty good in Tacoma, but there's just a lot more upside with Logan Evans. Evans actually has a plus pitch. Ooh. So, it would be interesting to see him. But the way that the things are kind of lining up for the Mariners with their off days, I think Wu's only going to have to make like 4 more starts. Like they could skip his spot in the rotation a few times down the stretch here. So we'll see if they do it or not. But Evans is certainly a guy to keep an eye on. Obviously we thought he was going to be up in a bullpen role probably about a month ago, but it just didn't work out. So I doubt they would try and do that again unless they were desperate, which I think we're a couple injuries away from that being the case anyways.
Sure. I agree with that. So there's a couple of options here within the Mariners organization, but overall, this is probably the team, right? The team that you're seeing right now is probably the team, but we should say this. There is still the possibility for trades, not major league trades, but if a guy has been in the minor leagues the whole year, he can be traded still at this point. Yep. And there's a couple of veterans in some organizations around the league that, have had major league success in the past that haven't played at the major league level yet this year. Maybe could get traded, right? Yeah. And you can still trade any of your prospects for those guys, all that stuff. So, there's obviously, guys are going to get waived, guys are going to get released.
Yep.
DFA, yep, all that. So there's still the possibility for some outside additions, and we're going to talk about that as well as this upcoming series with the Phillies in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Liquid IV. I think most of us can agree that there is nothing better than enjoying an ice cold beverage on a hot summer day at the ballpark. So when you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Tear, pour, live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the promo code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. This weekend, you can catch all the action between the Mariners and the Phillies on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. All right, so before we talk about that series, Colby, let's continue our discussion about some guys that are not currently on the 26-man roster for the Mariners that could help the Mariners, that could be a part of this thing moving forward. We've already talked about some guys in the organization already. Let's talk about some guys that are not in the organization right now that are available at the moment. Who stands out to you of those guys that have found their way to the open market recently?
Sure. A couple names who have not produced this year, so there's a reason that they're out there. But Giovanni Gallegos of the Cardinals, once one of the best middle relief type arms in baseball, and he's really struggled this year, and the fastball has taken a huge step back, and he wasn't very good last year. So it's been a couple of years since he's been good, but he does have a track record of being a really good reliever for the Cardinals. He was DFA'd. He's elected free agency, so he is due the veteran minimum prorated for the rest of the year. So money's not a thing there. Same goes for JD Davis, who we talked a lot about in March and February. He has been DFA'd and he has elected free agency as well. So again, prorated minimum there. He has not had a good year at all. He has really struggled this year playing for Oakland and the Yankees. But again, we understand who JD Davis is. We understand the track record there. And we're talking about what is almost certainly a minor league deal for a couple weeks to see if you can fix something in Tacoma. And when you kind of look at the Mariners roster right now with the way Josh Rojas is swinging the bat, you kind of need Dylan Moore to be the shortstop. At least they think they need Dylan Moore to be the shortstop. So why not bring on this guy, JD Davis, who has been a really good hitter for most of his career? Bring him in. You kind of platoon. You play matchup at third base with Rojas. And then you can send down Rivas, who, right now is only starting against right-handed pitching. Left-handed pitching. So I think Davis makes a good deal of sense. And again, these are guys you're signing to minor league deals and you're putting them in Tacoma and you're seeing, right? I don't think there's anybody out there that you're signing out of free agency straight onto the major league roster. I think these are just, hey, let's get you in our org. Let's work on some things. Let's see how this looks for a couple weeks. And then, late August, we'll make a decision on that for you guys. And obviously that's going to be a lot more appealing to somebody like Gallegos. Maybe another guy who was DFA'd. I don't think he's cleared yet. But Adrian Hauser, if you're kind of looking for that fifth starter type who can eat innings and, give you a chance to win out of the back end, it probably about as good as Emerson Hancock. But you know what? Why not have another Emerson Hancock in your system? Why not? Like, what's wrong with having two of those guys, particularly since Hancock only has the one option left this year? So, I do think there's a few guys out there that make a lot of sense. Well, they make a lot of sense in hey, they're free. They're all prorated minimum guys. They're all signing minor league deals in theory. But yeah, of those guys, I think JD Davis is probably the most interesting. But we'll have to wait and see. The Seattle, there's not really a precedent for this, so we'll wait and see what they want to do. But I'd be on the phone with Davis, trying to get him to Tacoma because, again, like, you just look at his track record as a bat, minus this year essentially. He's a guy who, if you can actually find 2023 JD Davis for a couple of weeks, he's your starting third baseman. Right. And he's probably hitting like 6 in this lineup. So that's a shot I would take.
All right, so let's switch gears here. Let's talk about this upcoming series against the Philadelphia Phillies, who enter this series as the second best team in baseball. And hey, good news. You're not going to face Aaron Nola. You're not going to face Christopher Sanchez. You're not going to face Ranger Suarez. Mm-hmm. You are going to face Zach Wheeler in the last game of the series. You're going to face tonight Tyler Phillips, who has been really good in his first 3 starts. 1.80 ERA over 25 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts. That feels like one of those guys that just shuts the Mariners down. But we'll see. Hey, you know what? It's a new lineup with Randy Arozarena and Justin Turner. So
he had a 5 ERA in AAA for Philly. So why wouldn't he come up and throw 25 great innings right when the Phillies need him to? So why not? But that's not a particularly scary matchup. But as we know with the Mariners offense, we say it all the time, matchups don't matter.
Right, of course. But the Mariners, of course, countering with Brian Wu, who we talked about a little bit a while ago. Then tomorrow, it's going to be Bryce Miller against Colby Allard. Colby Allard, I'm sure some of you are familiar with from his time with Rangers. He, of course, was also with the Braves for a little bit. The Mariners have handled, and obviously different lineups, whatever. But the Mariners, historically, as an organization, have handled Colby Allard very, very well. Allard against the Mariners, they're slashing 303, 377, 587 against him in seven appearances.
That's the Mariners doing.
Yeah. 8.65 ERA for Colby Allard in his career against the Mariners.
For the 6 shutout innings.
And then at T-Mobile Park, in 4 games at T-Mobile Park, 305, 397, 678, 10.05 ERA, 6 homers, 16 earned runs in total, 4 doubles, 18 hits, 14 strikeouts, 7 walks.
Some runs is what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you're going to win one of these games, it's good chance it's going to be that one. And then, of course, Sunday, you're going up against Zach Wheeler, one of the best pitchers in baseball. But, hey, you're also countering with one of the best pitchers in baseball in Logan Gilbert.
It's a good matchup.
Yeah. So that's going to be a fun one.
It's a great matchup if you win the first 2.
Yeah.
If you lose the first 2,
how about not losing the Colby Allard start?
Yeah, let's at least do that. I shared this yesterday on the Patreon, but the Mariners have not won a 3-game series against a team that currently has a 500 record since, what was it, late May, when they took 3 or 4 from the Astros. And keep in mind, the Astros didn't even have a winning record at that time. So they haven't beaten a good team in a while in a 3-game set. So they should do that. It'd be great for the vibes. I think, the key to this one is obviously you have to score runs against these pitchers that they're throwing out here the next 2 days. But Miller and Wu, both at home, which is good, but facing some of the best lefties in the National League in this one, Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, obviously
Stott's had a bad year,
but still, I mean, these guys against lefties, it's their bugaboo, right? It's kind of one of those things that they're better at, but they're still trying to, find that consistent out pitch against lefties. Miller's been spectacular for the last month. I think he's running a sub-2 ERA since July 1. Wu, it's you never know what you're going to get with Wu. Performance-wise will probably be fine, but you never know if he's going to go 3 innings or if he's going to go 6. Who knows? So it makes it really tough to kind of gauge how you feel about this matchup. But it's going to be a big weekend for probably the splitters. Bryce Miller and Logan Gilbert splitters are going to get quite a bit of work out here, and you just kind of hope you can contain Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. And the best way to do that is to score so many runs that whatever they do in this series is inconsequential. So just score a lot of runs.
Yeah, and it doesn't get easier for you when you see the righties of the Phillies either. Trey Turner has been incredible this year. Alec Baum has been incredible this year. And then, of course, JT Realmuto is not a walk in the park either. They just acquired Austin Hayes from the Orioles, who's been really good against lefties.
And Castellanos has a flair for the dramatics. So... obviously Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Philly is a very good baseball team, so you're going to have you're going to have a long weekend. You just hope that you can jump on these starters, because right now that is the Achilles heel of this team. It's those 2 starters right there. Go score 5, 6, 7 runs against them, and then hope that your bullpen is well positioned to manage You're not going to shut these guys out. You're not going to, hold Philly to 3 runs in 3 games. Like, not going to happen. They're going to score some.
Yeah.
That's why it's really important. Don't commit errors. Don't walk guys. Don't hit guys. Like, make them earn everything. Because if you give them freebies, they're going to beat you.
Yeah. And this Phillies bullpen is really good. Jeff Hoffman has had a great year. Matt Strom has been excellent this year. Orion Kerkering has been excellent this year. Jose Alvarado, really good lefty. Yeah. So you got to get to the starters. Have to.
Yep.
So we'll see how it goes. This is going to be an interesting test for the new look Mariners.
It's probably the best time you could ever hope to see the Phillies. That doesn't mean it's a good time to see the Phillies. Right. They've lost 4 in a row. You're only facing one of their stud rotation. Like, yeah, this is the best time to see the Phillies. Doesn't make it a good time.
Right. So hopefully you at least win the Colby Allard start. That's really all I'm asking for here. That's really all I'm asking for here. Yeah.
And if I don't know who's playing Houston, but if they want to do some damage
Tampa
against the Astros. Yeah, okay, yeah. Tampa's, I know they sold a lot, but we know how
Christopher Morel's off to a great start with them.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I mean, like, we'll see.
And they still got Yandy. Still got Yandy, still got Brandon Lau. Still got some dudes on that team. Yeah, Josh Lowe.
They can pitch a little, got some bullpen arms and all that. Funny, Pete Fairbanks ended up not getting traded.
Yeah.
When everybody was like, oh, he's going to the Yankees. Like, done deal.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see. But obviously the name of the game. I would love it if you could just win a series, because it feels like it's been forever since you've won a series against a real baseball team. Like Chicago, I don't want to discredit it because you did go up against their 3 best guys and they were all throwing the ball incredibly well.
3 really good pitchers, especially Fetty and Crochet. I mean, Crochet has been arguably the 2nd or 3rd best pitcher in baseball this year.
Right. And you scored most of your runs against the rotation, not against the bullpen. So it's not even like, you just got to the bullpen. So I don't want to discredit that Chicago White Sox series too much, but they've lost 17 in a row. It's okay. Can we just beat a good team 2 out of 3 times? That'd be fantastic. And you're going to get 3 opportunities to do it this homestand. So can you do it twice? Maybe can you win 2 of these 3 series? That would be incredible. Got to turn these vibes around, and we're close. We're really close. They've won 4 of 6. The offense is starting to swing it. We're so close. Just win a couple series.
And it'd be such a great swing, especially if you're able to win a series like this, and maybe the Astros lose their series to the Rays. And then, they're going to be playing the Rangers next, which, hopefully those 2 teams just beat up on one another. Right.
Yeah.
You're still rooting for the Rangers in that series because they're further away from you than the Astros are. But and then, the Astros schedule does not get any easier. This is by far the toughest part of their schedule, and you have to take advantage of that. And look, obviously, there's so many qualifiers that we could throw here. It depends on the pitching matchup on a night-to-night basis. You don't know how injuries are going to line up, blah, 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 blah.
Who's in the lineup? Who's swinging it well? Who's not swinging it well?
But the Astros, they after they face the Rays and the Rangers, they face the Red Sox, they face the Rays again, they face the White Sox for 3, whatever. They face the Red Sox again, and look, we just saw how tough that Red Sox team is, especially at Fenway, and they're going to see them at Fenway here next week. Then they go on the road. They play Baltimore and Philly on the road, back to back.
Yep.
That's pretty key. And then they play the Royals at home, and the Royals, as much as the Royals have been a thorn in the Mariners side, the Royals have been really a thorn in the Astros side for the last couple of years. And obviously the Royals are playing really good ball right now. So this is the opportunity this month.
Yeah, I wish they were playing a little bit better heading into it, but hey man, Randy and Turner, they add some depth and they add some length to your lineup. Maybe you get Julio back in the next few days.
Yeah.
You hope Polanco's healthy and he continues to do what he's doing. Cal can continue to there's a path where you just, you win. I don't know how many games they have this month, but they go 17-8 or something like that. And all of a sudden we're like, okay, we're in this now. So we'll see, but it's one game at a time. Win the games that you should win, or win the games that you have a good chance to win tonight, and tomorrow you have a pretty good chance to win those games relative to when you normally face the Phillies. So hopefully they can take advantage and win both of them. Yeah, I just beat a good team multiple times.
Right. That'd be great.
Can you just do that for me, please? Just
That
show me
would
that
be
you still
preferable.
can do it.
Right.
Because
And then-
I mean, if you stopped watching Mariners baseball in mid-May, you might think that they couldn't possibly do it. So,
the Mariners rest of their schedule for August. So they're playing the Phillies, of course, this weekend. Then it's the Tigers. They're a tough out. Mets, tough out. Tigers once again on the road.
Face Scooble twice.
Yeah. Then the Pirates. Hopefully
really
you don't
good
see
ball.
Paul Skeens.
Yeah, even if you
Fingers
don't,
crossed.
they're playing really good ball right now.
Yeah. And they got better at the deadline.
Yep.
Then the Dodgers, who've been streaky and they've been hurt,
Obviously,
especially in the
very talented.
rotation.
Betts might be
yeah.
back by then.
But yeah, it's Mookie, it's Freddie Freeman, it's
Right.
Shohei Ohtani. It's you guys know the deal with the Dodgers.
First and last time seeing Ohtani this year. That feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels nice.
This is nice.
And you're gonna see Teo, who I'm just gonna go ahead already and just
Big
say he's gonna have a great series, and Twitter is gonna be lovely during that 3-day stretch. Then Giants at home, Rays at home, and those two series coincide with that stretch that the Astros are going on when they play the Orioles and the Phillies. So that's a big stretch for the Mariners there, that Giants and Rays series to pick up some ground or put some ground in between them and the Astros. And then they finished the month off with a trip to Anaheim, which of course the last trip to Anaheim did not go particularly well. So yeah, sorry to remind you of that, but yeah. So again, big month for the Mariners in August. How about this? How about you just do what you did last August? Huh? Could be fun. Could be fun.
I'll allow it.
And Julio comes back. Maybe he should just do what he did last August. I'm just putting it out there. Just saying. Just my recommendation.
Could be fun.
Yeah. Could be fun. All right.
Also he was pretty good in July. So if he just even does that over August, Randy and Justin and Julio all hot at the same time, could be fun. Could be a lot of fun.
All right.
Be soul sucking like the last month has been. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. That is going to do it for our show. But before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Now head on over to Locked On Seahawks to get all the latest out of training camp from Corbin Smith and the gang. Tell them Colby and Ty sent you. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.